On June 12, 2025, an Air India flight departed on what should have been a routine journey. Moments after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. The aircraft struggled to gain altitude, its engines straining against an unseen force before it plummeted back to Earth. The crash was catastrophic, claiming the lives of 241 passengers and crew members. Yet, from the twisted metal and smouldering debris, one man emerged. His name was Vishwashkumar Ramesh, and he was the only person to survive. His story immediately captured the world's attention, a single point of light in an overwhelming tragedy that also took the life of his own brother. Ramesh's escape was a matter of pure, improbable chance. He recalled the terrifying moments when the plane felt stuck before its final, fatal descent. The impact was violent and disorienting. When the chaos settled, he found himself on a section of the fuselage that had landed on the ground floor of a building. A door had been broken open by the force of the crash, offering him a path to safety that was denied to every other person on board. His survival seemed to defy all logic and all odds, a stark and lonely exception to a rule of absolute devastation that unfolded around him. Almost instantly, the internet became fascinated with his story. Search engines saw a massive spike in his name as people tried to understand how one person could live when so many had died. Online forums and social media platforms were flooded with discussions, with many labeling him a miracle. The word miracle was used repeatedly, a simple way to process an event that felt beyond normal comprehension. People needed a narrative, a reason, and in the absence of a clear explanation, they turned to the idea of divine intervention. This public reaction highlights a common human need to find meaning in the midst of random, large-scale loss. This intense public focus, however, creates a unique and often difficult spotlight for the survivor. While the world sees a miracle, the individual experiences a profound and personal trauma. The story of Vishwashkumar Ramesh is not just a headline, it is the beginning of a long, complicated journey. He is not the first to walk this path. Throughout the history of aviation, there have been others who found themselves in the same unbelievable position, the sole survivor. Their experiences show us that surviving is not the end of the story, but the start of a new, challenging chapter filled with complex emotions and a heavy burden. The story of a sole survivor resonates so deeply because it feels both miraculous and profoundly unfair. Long before Vishwashkumar Ramesh's ordeal, other names became etched into the public consciousness for the same reason. One of them is George Lamson Jr. In 1985, he was just 17 years old when Galaxy Airlines Flight 204 crashed in Reno, Nevada. He was thrown from the aircraft, still strapped into his seat, and landed upright in the street. Everyone else on board, including his father, perished. Lamson's survival was a statistical improbability that would go on to define the rest of his life in ways he could never have predicted. Decades later, Lamson speaks of an unspoken understanding that exists only among those who have endured such an experience. He has reached out to other sole survivors, forming a small, informal community bound by a unique form of grief and resilience. He knows that the initial media storm eventually fades, but the internal echoes of the event last forever. For these individuals, the label of survivor is a permanent identity. It is a constant reminder not only of their own unlikely fortune, but also of the immense loss that made their survival so remarkable in the first place, a connection forged in the crucible of shared tragedy. Another powerful story is that of Cecilia Crocker, who was known as Cecilia Seacon when she became the sole survivor of Northwest Airlines Flight 255 in 1987. She was only 4 years old when the plane crashed near Detroit, killing 154 people on board, including her parents and brother. Rescuers found her amid the wreckage, a small child who was too young to comprehend the scale of the disaster or her place within it. Her story captured the heart of the nation, a symbol of innocence preserved against impossible odds, but she grew up in the shadow of a tragedy she couldn't remember. Cecilia's experience underscores the long-term psychological impact of such events, even when direct memories are absent. Her survival was a public miracle, but her life was a private journey of coming to terms with a family she never knew. The stories of Lamson and Crocker are not just historical footnotes, they are living testaments to the complex aftermath of survival. They reveal that emerging from the wreckage is only the first step. The much longer journey involves navigating a world that sees you as a symbol, while you struggle with the deeply personal realities of what was lost. For many soul survivors, the most persistent question is a simple, haunting one. Why me? This question often leads to a profound and crushing sense of survivor's guilt. It is a heavy psychological burden, a feeling of having done something wrong just by living when everyone else died. Jim Hinkey, the co-pilot of a Comair flight that crashed in 2006 in Lexington, Kentucky, knows this feeling intimately. He was the only person to survive the crash that killed 49 others. His physical injuries were severe, leaving him in a wheelchair, but he has said the emotional wounds are far deeper and more painful. Pola Hinker has spoken openly about his struggles with the immense guilt that followed the crash. As a member of the flight crew, he felt a sense of responsibility that magnified his pain, even though investigations would later focus on other factors. His experience highlights a critical aspect of survivorship. The internal narrative can be more punishing than any external judgment. The feeling of being chosen is not always a comforting one. It can feel like a curse, a constant reminder of a debt that can never be repaid, forcing the survivor to relive the final moments over and over again, searching for an answer that will never come. This search for answers extends beyond the personal and into the technical. Following any crash, investigators descend on the site to piece together what happened. In the case of the recent Air India incident, the recovery of the flight data recorder is a crucial first step. Early analysis of video footage has already raised questions about whether the wing flaps were correctly configured for takeoff, a detail chillingly similar to the cause of the 1987 crash that Cecilia Crocker survived. Investigators meticulously examine every piece of evidence from the wreckage itself to maintenance logs and cockpit voice recordings. Their goal is to find the cause, not to assign blame, but to prevent future tragedies. Was it a mechanical failure, a pilot error, or a combination of factors? Determining the chain of events that led to the disaster is a slow and methodical process. For the public, these investigations provide closure and reassurance that air travel remains safe. But for the survivor, the official report can be a double-edged sword. It might offer a logical explanation, but it can never truly answer that personal, agonizing question of why they were the one who was spared. Surviving a plane crash is an event that fundamentally alters the course of a person's life. It is not simply an incident to get over, but a new reality to live with every single day. The person who emerges from the wreckage is not the same one who boarded the plane. They are now part of an exclusive and tragic club, their identity forever linked to the disaster. This transformation brings with it a complex duality of hope and pain. On one hand, there is the undeniable gift of a second chance at life, a profound appreciation for every moment that was almost lost forever. This newfound perspective can be a powerful force for good. Some survivors find a new purpose, dedicating their lives to honoring the memory of those who were lost or speaking out to improve aviation safety. They may find solace in family, in advocacy, or in simply living a quiet, meaningful life that they feel is worthy of their incredible luck. This sense of purpose can be a vital coping mechanism, a way to channel the trauma into something positive and to create meaning from a senseless event. It is a way of answering the why me question with action, by living a life that serves as a testament to those who are gone. However, this hope is always shadowed by an enduring pain. The grief for lost loved ones, the physical and emotional scars, and the weight of survivors' guilt can be constant companions. Anniversaries of the crash can be incredibly difficult, bringing back a flood of traumatic memories and feelings of loss. The media attention, while often well-intentioned, can feel intrusive and prevent the survivor from moving forward. They are often asked to recount the worst day of their life for a public that is fascinated by the spectacle of disaster. forcing them to relive the trauma repeatedly for the benefit of others. Ultimately, the story of a sole survivor is a powerful lesson in human resilience and the fragile nature of life. Figures like Vishwashkumar Ramesh, George Lamson Jr., and Cecilia Crocker are not just symbols of miracles. They are human beings navigating an extraordinary and difficult path. Their survival brings a glimmer of hope into a dark event, reminding us that even in the most dire circumstances, life can persist. Yet, it also serves as a somber reminder of the profound and lasting impact of tragedy, showing that the line between a miracle and a burden can be incredibly thin.